Welcome to Retail Retold, the stories behind how that store landed in your neighborhood. I'm Chris Ressa, in conversation with the people and stories shaping retail and real estate. Brought to you by DLC.
Welcome, everybody, to a special and truly unique episode of Retail Retold with your host, Chris Ressa. Except today, the tables are turned. Chris sits in the guest chair, and yours truly, Adam Ifshin, the CEO of DLC, gets to play host for a day. We are coming to you from the SiriusXM studios at the fabulous Wynn Las Vegas Resort, and we are here on the eve of the #1 commercial real estate conference in the world, ICSC Las Vegas. So, Chris, welcome to your own show.
It's definitely odd to be on this side of the table.
You have no idea. It's going to be more so in a few minutes. So we're going to do a brief episode that's going to be a little different than the typical Retail Retold episode, because I think a lot of people know you. I would like to say that I think I really know you. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like, what your life's been like, and how you came to be where you are today, and how you think about, where you are at this point in your career.
Okay.
So let's start. Look, you are a public persona in the industry. You have a top podcast. You're well known, tons of followers on LinkedIn and other social media. So we don't need your origin story, but I think it is helpful very briefly to tell people a little bit about how you came to come to DLC in the first place, or your DLC origin story.
So I went from Sherwin-Williams right out of college in their corporate real estate department, realized it was a great company, but realized I liked the real estate business. And at Sherwin-Williams, I was a function of their business. I wasn't the business. And so ended up getting a job with a group that many know, Ashkenazi Acquisitions. And they were doing a bunch of interesting stuff. But then a recruiter just called, and it was for a DLC leasing rep role. And I was super interested and intrigued. And I went in, and after interviewing and meeting with everybody, it felt right. It felt like that was the move I should make. And I took a plunge, and it was, I was 2.5 years into my corporate career at that point.
So, and that was when for everybody?
That was in 2007.
So in 2007, right before it got ugly.
It got ugly.
And maybe not everybody knows this part. Then you left.
Yes.
You left. Why'd you leave?
So
Tell them the truth.
The grass is always greener. So I was there for 4 years, and I think in a lot of industries, but in particular in sales roles, you have this, point in your career where you're either going to stay in only the deal side, or you're going to move into the people management side. And at that time, I wanted to explore that opportunity, and it wasn't coming available at that point in time. And I had another opportunity, and that was at what was GGP at the time. And when I kind of felt like I saw the writing on the wall that opportunity wasn't happening at DLC, I went to GGP for a very short while.
We're going to talk about that for 1 second. And you were recruited away by a friend of mine. You were recruited away by a snowshoe buddy of mine. And after it happened, I was pretty pissed. And my wife asked me if we were going to find that guy, dead on the side of some trail walking up a mountain. But we all played nice in the sandbox. And then you came back.
I did.
And it wasn't very long. It was less than a year.
Yeah.
So you came back. What made you come back?
I think the grass is always greener, right? I thought I kind of learned a lot about myself during that 10 months. I think one, I really liked what DLC was about. People first organization, super entrepreneurial. I always like to say, at the time we were, medium-sized business where could compete with the big boys, but still scrappy enough and entrepreneurial to not let bureaucracy be the enemy of the greater good. And that kind of fit me. And then I think that, there was an opportunity at that point in time to really lead in the way that I was thinking about it and how I envisioned doing it. And DLC provided me that opportunity, and you provided me that opportunity. So when you put two and two together of like, it was kind of the people, the culture, the type of business, and then the right job opportunity, it was the moment to come back.
And we are still to this day delighted that you made that decision. There's no doubt about it. And look, after you came back, right, it's like you stepped on a launch pad,
Yeah.
right? And your career basically went parabolic, right?
Yeah.
You became VP, became an SVP, you became co-head of leasing, you became the head of leasing, and just, across was probably what, 6, 7 years, right?
Yeah.
7, 8 years. And your career goes parabolic. And then one day I called you. Remember that?
I do.
Uh,
We went for Greek.
we went for Greek. And I called you and said, let's go to lunch. And I asked you to be the COO.
Yep.
Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised. I think, no matter how confident you are and capable you believe in yourself, I think that you don't know when opportunities are coming. And so I was surprised. Not that I didn't think I could do the role, but I think more, you never know. Timing is everything.
I think timing definitely matters, but I've been thinking about it for a long time, as you might imagine. It was not a thought that came into my head. It said, I have no one to go to lunch with today. Let me invite Chris to Greek, and then I'll make him the CEO. I'll offer him the CEO job. No, didn't happen that way. But there was a big change when that happened,
Sure.
right? Which is you had to deal with me. You had to work for me directly.
Yes.
So here's your chance to tell everybody the good, the bad, and the ugly of working directly for me.
I think the best thing is, well, not the best thing. I'll take that back. I think one of the things that's really interesting is you often bring a different perspective to a situation that I don't know that I could get elsewhere. I don't think I would get it from ChatGPT. I don't think I would get it from another human being, which is like you look at a problem, you know, uh, like a three-sided coin. And so when, that helps really sharpen you if you're constantly looking at a problem from unique perspectives and ways to handle situations that, I like to think that I'm pretty good at, like, really in social contexts, how to, maneuver in strategy and with negotiations and how deals move. And undoubtedly, every single time you bring up a new perspective that I hadn't thought about in looking at that scenario, which I think has helped me grow significantly.
Thank you. It's nice to hear. You can tell them the truth later, or on your next episode when I'm not around. You can tell the truth now. I don't care. So look, like any other progression in someone's career, there's growing, right? There's growing, and sometimes they're growing pains. When you look back now, and it's now 8 years, almost 8 years, 7.5 years. What's a mistake you made you want to have back, and what are you really proud of that you did really well?
I think there's a lot of mistakes and a lot of things I'm proud of. So I think from a mistake, when you start getting into larger teams, if you can't figure out how to pull the lever down and knock down 10 pins, you're going to fall behind, you're going to make mistakes. And what that's really code for is you have to be able to work with the entire team, and you can't do it all. A pretty good tactician and executor.
I think
And
there are a lot of people in the industry who'd say you're one of the best.
And then, so if you're a good tactician and executor, you often go, all right, should I be doing this? And you know that if you you spent the time on it, it would get done in the way you would want to do it. But then that would take away from all these other things. I think, I still have to work on that, which is like, hey, maybe I should step away from this. This isn't probably my highest and best use because I've spent a lot of time in becoming more strategic over the years. And I don't know that I have one specific example, but I think that piece of like, not being the executor of all things was one of the things I've had to work on the most. I think, one of the proudest moments, definitely, and there's a lot of deals, but I think, coming out of COVID, our team became stronger than ever. I think, I've done a really focused job on trying to build the best team that I could. And in COVID, that really started to come together because, we all came together, and I kind of went to you with what like the plan was going to be and what we needed to do and what I thought was going to be, the right thing for the business. And then I went and I pulled people from other departments who weren't in those departments, and we went and tried to execute on a plan, and we did. And that was probably one of the proudest things because probably one of the scariest times. Right? The GFC was scary, but different ways. That kind of felt like, oh, this is a cycle and we'll get through a cycle. It's just a tough cycle. There were points in COVID which felt like structurally the world was changing. It didn't change in the ways that we thought it might, but it felt more like that than in the GFC. So it was one of the proudest things to be able to like get the team together off, remote work, and then go build a plan, and then go and execute that plan to make sure that the business could keep going forward and thrive was one of my prouder moments for sure.
I think that I think that's right. I have this saying about, leaders are truly tested in a cauldron. And the pandemic to me was your first, hopefully there won't be too many more like it, your first cauldron. And, it's a time when I felt like you found your leadership voice. You were definitely learning to lead in real time.
Yeah.
And I think you make a nice point, right? Which is we out of necessity, and perhaps not out of our own choice, but the scope and size of our leadership team shrank somewhat unexpectedly. And but that actually turned out to make the five of us really like a true band of brothers, which to me, it remains one of my great achievements as well. And I think when you ask the other three, I think they would speak similarly. Like, we never laid anybody off. We had people doing all sorts of different things, many of which were things you just thought up. And I was like, wow, he is rolling here. I think, to me, your biggest accomplishment has been your ability to not only do, but grow at the same time, and now starting to teach other people to do that. So
Thank you.
before we wrap, I think we're entering a new age in our industry. Fundamentals are great. Supply demand economics favor the landlord. Rent's going in the direction it's going, which is good for landlords. We are at the dawn of the age of the operator. And one of the things that happens when things change is how well a team does, how well a team exploits opportunities and mitigates risks from change, which is constant and never ending, is a challenge of leadership. So before we wrap this, talk a little bit about what you feel and how you approach building a best-in-class team. What does that mean to you? What does that mean, for DLC and how you run it?
Well, I think first off, like, to me, when I think of leadership, I often say this. So when we interview someone who's managing people, they'll often ask me like, so what are you looking for in this job? And sometimes it's like a discipline that I'm not well versed in, and maybe I don't know the answer to that. But generally, when it's managing someone, I say that I want the team to not be able to go to bed on Sunday night because they're so excited to go to work for this person on Monday. And so that's what I'm looking for in the role. And so I think the first thing is, right, can you get the team to believe that you have their back, and, are you both, and it's reciprocal, willing to run through walls for each other? And I think it starts there. And, I think about that every single day. And so I think that's where it starts for me. And if you do that, then to me, all the other real estate stuff, I mean, a lot of that is commoditized. I think there's a lot of things that are intangibles and mindset that I think about when we bring to the table that separate people. You and I talk about all the time on the amount of Teams meetings is such a disadvantage, and you should be out in front of people. Like events like this, that's what creates wealth, not Zoom calls. And so I think for me, it starts with, if you have each other's backs in the good times and bads, and everyone really believes that, and you don't just say that, then I think like a lot of the real estate stuff is commoditized. For me, someone once told me that there's 3 types of people in the room, Chris. There's someone who's the smartest in the room. There's someone who had a lot of connections and those people got him in the room. And then there's the hardest worker in the room. And I used to think about that a lot, which is like, I normally wasn't in the room where I was the smartest person. When I first got here, I didn't know anybody. And so I better work my tail off. And I think when you have a really passionate group of people who are working their tail off and they have each other's backs, I think at the end of the day, a lot of the real estate things, we can teach that. We have a lot of real estate experts. Those intangibles of, we mentioned COVID. Do you have the ability to survive under pressure or thrive under pressure? When there's 2 minutes left in the game, do you want the ball to go down the field or not? I think those are some of the things that I think about when I think about, where we're at and where I'm at in leadership right now.
The ball at the end of the game is a total Steve Ifshinism. So you
Yeah.
snuck that in. A very important man in both of our lives.
Yeah.
One with whom you share a birthday.
Yes, I do.
But before we close, I want to talk about a different dad. I want to ask you about a different dad for one second. So in the spring of 2025, I was in an elevator on my way up to go to bed at a conference, at an ICSC conference. And I walked into my hotel room and my phone rang and it was you. Remember that call?
I do.
And you asked me to come down to the bar in the hotel and meet somebody. It was your dad.
It was my dad, yes.
So you happy you made the call?
Yeah, of course. That was so cool for me. I've talked to you about him and him to you about you for years, and he had, he was able to come for one night at the OAC that moment. So I was like, I got to figure out, and I wasn't sure if he was going to get there or I was going to have time to get there. And when he was, I was like, I got to call Adam to come and meet them.
Well, if memory serves, he got to the bar before you did.
He did get there before me.
So I'll tell you something now in closing that I haven't told you before, which is in many ways, I think that's the greatest compliment that if you're a leader, you can get paid, which is that someone who you've mentored and helped develop and made a partner thought it was important enough for you to meet their parents or a parent. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Wow.
So with that, we're going to close, which means next week you're going to get this seat back, and I'm going to fade out into the background. So everybody, this has been a special episode of Retail Retold from the SiriusXM studios at Wynn Las Vegas on the eve of ICSC Las Vegas 2026. I am your guest host, Adam Ifshin, CEO of DLC, and I have been joined today by my partner, my friend, and a true ride or die, Chris Ressa. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe. See you in the next one.